Hi there, it's Becca here from Motivate Coaching. If you're not familiar with what I do, I'm a health and life coach, and I help women who can't afford to fall down on the job, or whether that's at home or at work. I help them de-stress, unwind, set boundaries, and regain energy so that they can do what they love with who they love in their free time. And yes, free time is a real thing. And we do this without feeling like you have to choose between having a happy and healthy life versus a successful one, because you can have both. So if you know anyone who fits that description, feel free to share this with them. And on to today's tips and tools. So last week I introduced you to the 20-minute meal. And the next tool up my sleeve is something called emotional brain training, or EBT. And we'll do this before your meals as well, and I'll show you how to tie that in. This is something I learned from the Health Coach Institute, which is where I got my certification from. And it's another super easy tool to put in your toolkit, and it's about preparing your body to eat. And this is such a key step in getting your body out of that stress response that I've been talking about and into that state of relaxation. Because if you remember, it's scientifically impossible for your body to release weight if your body is constantly in stress mode all the time. And I keep repeating this because it is so important to living a happy and healthy life. And just imagine how your life can be if you could deal better with stress, if you coped with it better, if you said no to those things that stressed you out in the first place, and that you didn't even have to deal with them if you just said no. How would that benefit your life? And what's important about that to you? Before learning this, I always heard that to, kind of calm your body down and just slow down before you eat something. You could take like 3 to 5 deep breaths or more, depending on your situation, and just kind of breathe and calm and kind of just center yourself. Well, I tried that. I don't know if you have, or if you've even heard of doing that, but it didn't work for me. If you've tried it, did that work for you? And the problem that I found was that those deep breaths I took, they didn't take all of the emotion out of what I was experiencing in that moment. Yeah, it did slow me down a little bit for, maybe a minute or two, but then I'd start to think about whatever it was that was making me feel stressed or overwhelmed or irritated again, and then I'd be right back to where I started before I took my deep breath. So it didn't really work for me. I just felt like it was almost like your brain's on that hamster wheel and it's just going round and round and round, just like, ah! So as you know from last week, I talked about the 20-minute meal, and let's see. I think that won't. Yeah, so if you're in that state, then the 20-minute meal that I talked about last week, it's not going to be a 20-minute meal. It's going to be more of like a 2 to 3 minute meal, or maybe even less. And that's why this EBT check-in goes perfectly with what I talked about last week. When you're looking at the time that you start your meal, just if you're feeling you are stressed out or whatever and you just can't slow down, just check in with yourself right then and there before you even start eating. And I'll get into more detail about checking in just a minute. Whew, let's see. So the coaching program I'm in taught me that the reason my body wouldn't calm down or center was because I had this tension, because I needed to basically digest those emotions before I could actually digest my food. So in other words, I had to process my emotions I was feeling in the moment and move through them and recognize them so that I could let go of them and open up room for the actual food. Does that make sense? Kind of a different concept. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until HCI introduced me to this exercise called emotional brain training, or EBT, that I finally found a way to reliably and consistently relax before each meal. Now, I'll be honest, I don't do this before every single thing I put in my mouth. I don't even do it every day, at least not consciously anyways. It's in those moments where I feel like my mind's racing and that I can't just calm down and be there that I realize, like, I'm on that hamster wheel again, and maybe I should slow down because I would benefit from that. So it's like, aha, like that light bulb moment where I'm experiencing all of these things right now that I don't want to be experiencing. So I have to check in with myself and ask myself, what is it that I would rather experience instead of all of those things that have me on that wheel? And that gives me the space to kind of just pause and breathe and check in before I continue eating. So what is emotional brain training? So according to the EBT website, and I will attempt to share that with you now. Look at me, I'm advancing at my Facebook Live skills. There it is. So according to their website, EBT was developed over the last 30 years by Laurel Mellon. And it's a science-based program that integrates advances in neuroscience and stress physiology that rewires the patterns of anxiety, depression, overeating, and other unhealthy habits by using practical, easy-to-implement tools. And it was developed in collaboration with scientists and researchers from universities across the country. And today there's over 400,000 people who have used the skills of EBT, and there's over 10 research studies that attest to its effectiveness and lasting results. And the method became completely brain-based in 2007, offering a new paradigm in healthcare. So what is emotional brain training, and why is it important to you? Well, as we know, life is stressful. And this is also on their website. They mention this, that the more people are really experiencing a stress overload and repeated experience of stress wires the brain to get stuck in stress, and the chronic stream of stress hormones cause about 80% of health problems. So is that news to you? I mean, have you heard before that most chronic health conditions are stress related? What do you think about that? That about 80% of health problems are stress related. That's crazy. And it's said in a different way on their website, but you already kind of know this. This is what we've been talking about for the last couple weeks, how stress affects our body. So here's what's really interesting. Neuroscience has proven that we can weaken and even erase the wires that are the root cause of anxiety, depression, overeating, and unhealthy habits. That's crazy, and it's also super exciting at the same time. The wiring that causes these health problems are in our emotional brain, and I'm not even about to go over all the different parts of your brain. And that part of our brain is where we fear change. So the wiring that causes health problems is in this area that causes us to fear change. And get this, most of us try to think our way out of our problems, but the thinking does not rewire our emotional circuits. So this is why advice only in coaching is not effective, because this part of your brain needs to be rewired. And I can't just give you advice on something and expect you to have lasting results with that. I know I've tried that before and it just doesn't work. EBT also argues that you need emotional tools to rewire emotional circuits, and EBT gives us those tools, so it's really cool. For those of you who like to geek out on this kind of stuff, there is an article and there's a link above, and I will share it with you here as well in the comments. There it is. And it's an article called Rewiring the Stress Response, A New Paradigm for Healthcare. And it talks all about emotional brain training. So go check that out if you'd like to geek out on that. Oh, so let me walk you through. There is a handout that I have that I would love to share with you. Let me get that link for you. And you can either download it now, if you're watching live, go download it and then watch the replay and listen to the instructions. It might make a little more sense if you have it in front of you. Okay, so the way this works is that you do a check-in with yourself. And when I first tried this, I did it only before the meals when I was at home versus at work, because at work there's just never any time to actually really sit down and focus, it seems like, when you're eating. So if you want to try it, just once a day like it says on the sheet, or if you're one of those people that you feel like it would benefit you more if you did it between every single meal, then do whatever floats your boat. So let's see. Like I said, it says to do it just daily, like once a day, with whatever meal you choose. And the first step is to take a deep breath and check in with your feelings and ask yourself, right now, what is my stress level? Am I feeling great? Am I feeling good? Am I a little stressed? Am I definitely stressed, or am I just completely stressed out? And once you've selected one of those options, you're going, okay, I'm feeling stressed. And let's say, you'll know what I'm talking about if you have the sheet in front of you, but let's say that I'm stage 3, so I'm a little stressed. And then you're going to want to turn the page to the page where that state is. So if you're feeling a little stressed, then I would turn to, let's see what page it is, the page, I think it's page 3. You're going to turn to that page and it says state 3, feeling a little stressed. And it says emotional house cleaning. And then it says you are a little stressed because that's what you're feeling. So you use this emotional house cleaning to clear away the feelings and then become aware of the positive feelings that are underneath the negative feelings. And I suggest that when you start doing this to write it down, because you're completing sentence starters. And I think I've already said that I'm really forgetful. So if I don't write it down, then I am not going to remember what I said or what I thought. And eventually, I've gotten better about it where I don't have to write it all down all the time, but I just like to see it. I am one of those people that I'm a visual learner and I like to see it there. Plus, if you're writing it down, you're thinking it and then you're writing it and then you're actually looking at it. So that's 3 different steps or opportunities you have to rewire those circuits. So you're going to complete the following sentences. I feel angry that, and fill that in. I feel sad that. I feel guilty, I feel grateful, I feel happy, I feel secure, and I feel proud. And just complete those sentence starters. And then you're going to keep moving down the page to the end where it says, congratulations, you've completed an EBT check-in. Feel a surge of joy. And that sort of anchors in all of that work that you just did. Now, when you go back to that state 3, you'll notice that you're moving through feeling angry and sad and guilty and maybe afraid, and that you're moving into gratitude, happiness, security, and pride. That is so cool that you can witness that you just moved through all of those things. So let's go back to page 1. Again, if you don't have it in front of you, download it later. So page 1, state 1, is feeling great. And this is just deepening, strengthening, and being present with the joy that you're currently experiencing. So you can take a deep breath and get in a good posture, observe yourself, and just connect with the safe place within and feel this wave of compassion for yourself and for compassion for others and for all living people and all living beings, and just feel that surge of joy. And then when you've completed, you go to the end of that EBT training, and again, it's going to say, congratulations, you've just completed an EBT check-in. And so all the different states are something you can go through, and it just depends on how stressed you are at that time. And this is such an incredibly useful tool to actually witness what you were feeling and then just see the transformation before your eyes of, I was here and now I'm here. That is so cool. So if you have questions about how to use it, you can post them in the comments or send me a personal message and I would love to go over it with you. And I really encourage all of you to try it. It really is an extraordinary and much more powerful, in my experience, than taking just a few deep breaths before I start eating. And this is going to be especially powerful for those of you who have challenges with like emotional eating or binge eating, overeating, compulsive eating, or if you're just like insanely stressed out and you feel like all of your life circumstances are just crazy and out of control. This is going to be extremely useful. Okay. So let's recap here. So you've learned how, over the last few weeks, you've learned how important water is for your body and how you can drink more of it. You've learned how stress can affect your body and the way you eat and who you're being when you're eating and just how that whole process unfolds and how how what you're eating is more important than what you're eating. Or I said that backwards. How you're eating is more important than what you're eating. And now you've learned 2 powerful practices that turn off your body's stress responses so you can get a lot done even if you don't have to change anything that you're eating. And these 2 items were the 20-minute meal from last week, and this week was what emotional brain training is, why it works, and how to use it. And before I conclude for today, I'd like for you to leave a comment and let me know which tool you're going to try at your next meal. Are you going to try the 20-minute meal or the emotional brain training or both? I'd love to know. Another question I'll leave you with is, how important is it for you to experience a change in this area of your life now, and why? Just think about that. Some people in this area of life, they don't need support and accountability. All they need or want is more and better information, and they just need to be in that right moment of motivation so that they can do it themselves. But if you're like me and my clients, we already know that we love support and accountability and having someone who is there to help and support us and stretch us to be successful, and there is no shame in that at all. And it's not that we need those things, like that support and accountability, it's that we want those things. And are you someone who, in order to get what you want in this area, or maybe a different area of your life, who you'd benefit from support, accountability, or coaching, or not? Either way is cool. If you are, I invite you to contact me for a one-on-one, usually about a 60-minute discovery session. You can go ahead and schedule that today, and I will put a link, if I can highlight it. I'll put a link in the comments, and there's also one above the video, I believe. Otherwise, I will catch you next week. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some ahas out of this. So I'm curious to see what you guys try. Have a good day.